Shit in the chat already, Jake.
I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, well, maybe we'll hear about him slaughtering a pod of dolphins. What a way to start the show. A dolphin
I'm
slaughter.
getting
There we go.
Jacques Cousteau shit. I have not watched any more Jacques Cousteau filmography since the last time we talked.
You had enough marine gore for
I was like, I don't know if I need to. I mean, I want to see his evolution into, conservationist, I guess. I do want to go on the character arc.
I'm just laughing the way you characterize that too, where he's just like on the boat, like, "Oh shit, we just killed like all those dolphins. Like, what were they doing there? Oh my god, okay."
Dude,
like just
it was nuts. It's totally nuts.
What a shame.
You apparently haven't watched it.
No, I will not. Okay. No.
Yeah. What's up, buddy?
Not much,
right?
man. How are
I
you?
Heard you're sad.
Yeah.
I heard you're sad about it. You told me an hour before this show. Jake told me that what we should talk about today is he is sad about space things and he wants me to cheer him up. So
yeah.
I do have to warn you. All
funny.
I've been listening to for the last month is a crying baby and swing state election ads. So I don't know that I'm the one to cheer you up too much.
What's been your favorite election ad so far?
There is an ad running in the Philadelphia area in which it is I don't know if it's the Trump campaign itself or a PAC. I should see next time because the ending is absolutely stand-up comedy level SNL bit funny, which is it's like culture war stuff. And at the end, it ends with Kamala Harris for they them, Donald Trump for you.
Oh,
and it
yeah.
kills me. It kills me because that is straight up an SNL bit, and it's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, that one gets.
It's a total Shane Gillis skit. It's like
it absolutely is. Like it is. It's amazing, and it's a legit ad. Maybe I'll try to find it on YouTube and send it your way because it's excellent. So that one sticks the landing.
I saw the graph about like spending per state on ads, and like you guys are just getting clobbered. It's like
murderous.
Like you're 10xing any other state in spending.
Yeah. The real shame is, I grew up on the New Jersey side of this area here, and they get the same ads over there 'cause it's the same TV networks, but they don't get any of the voting.
They have no power.
Yeah. Yeah. So the half of the TV networks, half of the TV audience is just getting obliterated with these things for no functional reason.
That's funny.
So, yeah. Anyway, but that's a good one. That's what I got.
Yeah. All right.
Did you bring a drink?
I did. Yeah. Rocking another Petito today. I went for the IPA this time.
Nice.
You know what, man? Something happened with me in IPAs. Like I want to say within like 3 years, like the last 3 years, because I was an IPA guy, 100%. Like that was I loved it, and I still like. My tastes have not changed. I love it, but like I cannot do more than two of these. Knocks me out. Like I'm dead for the rest of the week almost. Like I can't recover from it. It's just too much
to process.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's too heavy. Yeah. So I used to be able to like just I could when I was young I could do a 6-pack IPAs like and
I watched you drink 3 boots at the IAC meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't that long ago.
No.
I think those might have been IPAs
years ago. I think they were. That was a legit thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I keep telling you I found the last one of these, but I think I 100% did this time. I've exhausted the back corner of my shelf. I found another Space Camper from Boulevard Brewing Company that was sent to us by the victorious Kansas City Royals. They won their playoff series, which is amazing because I'm pretty sure last year they were the worst team in baseball.
Did they win the baseball cup?
No, they did not. We were only in the very early days of the playoffs. The Phillies have not even started playing yet in the playoffs, Jake. You will know when I start playing whatever song becomes the playoff run song. So, yeah. That's what I got. I gotta open it. Cool. All right, hit me with this. We're starting with the sadness. There's been a lot of rocket news that we've not talked about, but
no, we haven't.
I think we should start with whatever the hell you're sad about.
Okay, so I was just like catching up on news and everything, right? As I do, because I have like dedicated time for it now. I used to just kind of like read it as it came in, and I just it doesn't work for me anymore. So now I have like a day where I just like, all right, and I just like open 38 tabs and just start reading. Yeah. When the one benefit of that is you see the trends better though. Like it's not a trickle feed, right? You're actually like, I just read like 15 articles that were already okay, cool. And so I was doing that today, and I got a little down. I got to admit, I was just like, I saw a couple trend lines that I didn't like, and the overall thing is I'm not feeling super good about the future of space right now, and I want to see if you can
capital F, capital S.
Help me.
Future of space, like no particular area of space are you feeling good
Okay,
about? Or it's just
three
general?
areas.
Okay.
But I think
my
they're
notes.
related though. Yeah, get your notes. Okay, so I was the first thing where I'm like pretty depressed right now is the ISS, because like there aren't any wins coming out of this program right now. Like there haven't really been for a while, right? Like we got the thing is like falling apart. It's got this real bad leak that's like accelerating now, and we have like the Russia thing is just like it's not getting any better. It's still have runway to get worse with Russia. Like let's put it that way, and it probably will. It's gonna use that runway.
Yeah, I mean, side note on that, they still are only committed through 2028, and I don't actually know what happens if they don't extend that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's fun.
Yes, cool. That's part of it. Starliner not looking good. So like that's half of a flagship program that is just not performing right. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe there's some hope, for, I don't know, private, but like it's pretty murky there, right? Like we Axiom space station things, like not a healthy outlook right now. They're in trouble with that. Everything else is PowerPoint, so it's like I don't know. So I was like, I'm pretty down on ISS right now, and I think that's going to be like there's like a sad sort of end of the era thing happening with that, and I don't know. So that's my first thing. Maybe we'll pause there.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to pull up was that the Axiom Space, was it the Forbes report? That was like Axiom Space doesn't have any money left.
Yeah, and they like overhired and everything.
Yeah,
and
I don't pay for Forbes, so I can't read it, but I'll link in the chat, or I'll link in the show notes for anyone that can.
They tossed, was it Suffragini's not there anymore, right?
Yeah, that was
a while ago.
A while ago at this point. Right. Cam Gafarian.
But probably related now, right?
Yeah, seems related. Those departures always are. We haven't talked about Phil McAllister becoming just a senior advisor at NASA rather than the head of commercial space. And I have not sniffed around that one too much.
Also not good for the future of space.
Not good, but also like, I mean, that one's tough because there didn't feel like there was anything in particular that was like a triggering event. Maybe, and he's been there for so long, and all of the things that he's touched, like you have to mark down as a win. So whatever. But all right, so we're starting at the ISS. We're scoping it to the ISS. No wins. All right, I'll try to find some wins for you on the ISS, Jake. Dragon is doing pretty well. That seems to be good. I think it's safe to say that the additional crew member that we've got in the commercial crew era has been going well on the ISS. There's a significant increase in crew time. That seems good. Like that actually panned out. That was one called shot from NASA that has tracked.
That might just be keeping up with inflation, though, because the maintenance costs on that are also going up, right? That's getting your cost of living wage increase.
That's a really fun one to look into. Yeah, like they quantified it at the beginning of, they quantified the crew hours at the beginning of the 4 crew member U.S. orbital segment, right? Because everybody's got to remember, there's 2 segments of the ISS. They are joined, but they operate independently in most ways, other than like sharing power and thermal resource and all that. There's 4 crew members over on the U.S. side, and they quantified the number of hours that were going into investigations, and it was like shamefully little before the 4 crew member variant of the operations have come up, and it like I don't know if it increased it by magnitude, but it felt like it was close to that. Like
it will, because like
low hours to a work week.
It's incremental over the minimum maintenance time, right? So like if you have 3 astronauts that are doing, let's pretend they have 40-hour work weeks. So 3 astronauts doing 120 hours of work in a week. If it takes 100 hours to maintain the station, you got 20 productive hours. You add that 4th crew member, you triple the time, right? You go from 20 to 60 of productive time, right? So yeah, the 4th one should give you a ton of extra time, right?
Let me ask you one question about that that I find interesting. We always talk about Axiom private missions, and not just Axiom, but private astronaut missions, because Axiom's losing money on these things, reported everywhere. Others want to get into the game, like VAST wants to get into these private astronaut missions, so others may do it eventually. We talk about how national astronauts are a really good market, like selling, some country their first astronaut or an astronaut at all. when you're talking about that, right? Every crew member that NASA or ESA or JAXA or Canada flies up is an incremental boost to crew time. Is there nothing that NASA would take advantage of on like a super discounted seat and send somebody up for like 2 weeks? Like a NASA astronaut on one of these flights?
So like having NASA actually purchase like AX4 seats or something like that?
It's like the cheapest ISS seat they could find.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like what if they bought one up on 4 and one down on 5? Now that we know that you can ride on a, wherever you keep the dishes in Dragon.
Yeah. I mean, they could. It's a funding issue though, right? Like that's incremental spend, right? So yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, why not just buy more Dragon flights and send
why doesn't ESA just start buying Dragon flights? Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, start stacking them up.
Yeah, I don't think availability is the issue there, right? Like I think if NASA wanted to have more astronauts up there, they would. Or if they could afford and wanted to, they would, I guess is the qualifier.
They also just really like their plans, which is,
yeah, they do.
I actually want to know like how much of a train wreck this Starliner situation was to the crew rotation plans.
Yeah,
that seems
it's not good,
nightmarish,
and it might get worse too, right? Like for the Russians as well, because if they have to close off that module with a leak, they lose a docking port, right? Mm-hmm. So now that
what did you find? You read this leak document, this OIG leak report. Can you give me
a little bit? There wasn't any nuggets. Like if you read the Burger article, you got it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, they did the same thing that I'm doing right now, which is they're assembling individual topics and going, "Hey, look, this is a conjoined problem."
This thing
right?
doesn't work well anymore.
Yeah, so they were talking about the leak, obviously, but then they were also talking about MMOD, which is a problem, especially with debris getting worse. They talked about Starliner, basically just like we have one provider and there's no evac plans. Like if we had to do something like, I think that's related to the SpaceX contract we saw for emergency, whatever. Right.
Right.
And then they talked about, there was one more topic and now I'm blanking on it. It was, it might've been crew time stuff, but
I thought there was some like deorbit.
Oh yeah. Deorbit stuff.
In there, right?
Yeah. So, risk basically because of Russia not signing on, and can you deorbit this in time? Like, what's that going to look like and all that kind of stuff. So, it's scary.
What is the actual, how does it work if Russia's like, no, we actually want to bail in 2028? I don't think that will happen. But if that does, but the other partners are all signed on in 2030, what happens?
I don't know.
Because
I mean, I think it ends. Like I think this is you need 100% compliance on this agreement. I don't think it's like a majority rule sort of situation. So, but what's like crazy about that is, this is a scary thing to say, but like it's 2024 right now. To get to renew the 2028 agreement, they probably have a couple of years to take care of that. Like I think by 26, maybe 27, you need to have that figured out, right? So you can put stuff in motion. A lot can happen in Russia in 2 years, man. Like, I don't know what. So, we'll see what it looks like.
I mean, the key is, they're asking in the chat, U.S. owns Zarya, correct, but not the other parts of the Russian module. And then there's different jobs that everything does. There's different roles that they would need to take over.
Mm-hmm. And I think Zarya is like pretty like shut down, isn't it? Like, hasn't it? Like the functions it had in the early station have been sort of like deactivated and passivated, and isn't that the one where they fold the panels in because there's no room for the panels to be out because there's other panels in the way.
There's
and
all the other modules
things like
there.
that, right? Yeah. So I don't know how useful Zarya is, but
no, it's just in the middle there. Yeah,
it's just a tunnel now.
But I think the key storage is like, you have to get the deorbit vehicle contract has to go so well for just generally. Like there is no real margin for the deorbit vehicle, which looking at the design of it, I'm like, all right, it should be okay. There shouldn't be too many unknowns here. We've got a Dragon body.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like
a shitload of Dracos.
If you screw it up, you can cause some problems, but it'll still come down.
Yeah, true.
maybe you'll hit the wrong spot. Maybe there's some like damage, like very worst case, you have some, I don't know, some property damage or loss of life, God forbid, but like it'll come down, the project will probably be successful in that respect. But.
Yeah. How do you feel about this thing that came out earlier this week, where if a Dragon is re-entering and the parachutes if all the parachutes fail, they're able to do propulsive landing? Is it?
Yeah,
I feel like I read the details weirdly about this.
That was pretty wild, but it kind of makes sense though, right? Like, so I know that NASA's like does not love the propulsive landing, but in a situation where the parachutes have broken, and you have the thrusters and they're fueled up, like obviously you want to turn those on.
Yeah, like messing around with that.
It's not like, no, they're too risky. Like, no, that's not even a question at that point, right? So like, it does make sense to put that plan into place. Like, let's pre-think that through so that in the event that there's actually an issue, we can just go and we're good, right? Like, not even need to press a button. Like, it would just automatically happen. Like, just detect a parachute failure and go from there. But I don't know. I don't think that's too weird.
I really hope they do that. Just
no, you don't want to parachute.
Not with people. No, not even on a mission. I want them to like take whatever the cargo dragon they hate the most is, because they're all spacecraft are all quirky. I'm sure there's one that people are like, God, I have to work on this freaking thing again. Like, this one sucks. The shuttles were all different.
It's like working on Columbia when
they were all different, Atlantis, and everyone had their favorite.
Sexy Atlantis was like ready to go. Yeah.
Sexy Atlantis. That's what I'm going as. It's Halloween. Yeah.
Atlantis is the sexy shuttle. Yeah. It's the thinnest one. It had the least amount of weight.
I just hope they take whichever dragon that is, and then, let's throw some experiments on it that we don't care about that much. Like, do some Cygnus disposal class experiments inside on the way home, and then do a propulsive landing test. Yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. They can do that while they're sitting around waiting for their FAA license for Starship. All right, I don't feel like I have. I'm gonna be honest, Jake. I'm sad about the ISS as well, and I don't really have anywhere to help you.
I know. I shouldn't have led off with the ISS with you, since you're already just like.
I'm hot and cold on ISS, right? We've known each other for damn near a decade now, and you know how many times it went back and forth. I still think, to state my position in the year of 2024 here, I still do think the ISS was a thing that kickstarted so many different ends of the commercial space industry in really interesting and profound ways, and that will be its greatest legacy. Yep. And if we can ever trace any of the research back to the ISS of like long duration human spaceflight, super cool. But I think the greatest legacy will be all of the, in NASA parlance, all of the spin-offs, which is I hate spin-off policy.
But this isn't a spin-off though, right? I wouldn't call it a spin-off. It's a development platform, and it's like produced product, right? So
that's legit, and that's awesome. The other aspect is, I think, what we're talking about with the deorbit situation is definitely a forcing mechanism for NASA to sort this stuff out. And I think that's been, the more we get into the 2020s, the more that pressure is there. And NASA has to figure out, okay, we need to fund a US deorbit vehicle. I just wish they were taking commercial LEO more seriously 5, 6, 7 years ago. And as been my main criticism of the Bill Nelson era of NASA, you had the greatest geopolitical opportunity of your life to get $1 billion level funding for commercial LEO, and you completely missed the opportunity to take that, largely because the budget is stifled out by everything else that's going on. But there has never been, I could not come up with a better situation to 5x the funding for commercial LEO than they were given in 2022? 2023. Right, February 2023. And none of that happened.
22?
Has it been almost 2 years? Or 1.5 years? It's only been 1.5 years, right? Or wait, whatever. That is yes, almost 2 years is 1.5 years.
It's been too long.
How much I slept last night.
Yeah. The only thing about that, before we move on to the next topic, is like one way to look at that cynically is that the reason that Bill Nelson didn't get a shit ton of money to replace the ISS with commercial things is because commercial stations don't solve the main problem the ISS was created to solve, which is to keep Russian engineers busy making space stuff and not rockets, right? Like not missiles. So like that doesn't help. Like commercial stations don't have Russian partnership, right? So like, no, it's like, you know, if you're like super high level thinking Congress people are just like, I don't care about how you discovered how to make T cells do something weird in the body in 0G. I care that this kept Russian nuclear missiles pointed in different directions. You know?
Yeah, right.
So there, that's your cynic take.
Yeah,
on
even
that.
honestly, I think so. Eric, friend of the show, Eric Berger, has been on a kick of writing articles that are very related to things that I've been yelling at him for years, which I'm happy about. And I don't think he ever disagreed with me on these topics, but he did finally write a really awesome piece with a newly redesigned Ars Technica that I think looks great. And one of those is about the fact that, you know, like, he asked Pam Melroy, basically, do we actually need long-duration human spaceflight in LEO? You know, because that's the critical issue here is, do you want to replace the ISS? Do you want to continue this like permanent habitation of LEO? Is there enough to find there versus what you would do with that money elsewhere? I still don't feel like that argument has been made well enough.
No, it hasn't.
I know that, and my biggest thing, you know, I'll pull up this article, but one of the things that they point to, if I can find the button that I need to hit to show us and the screen, is that this one? Yeah, there we go.
Now it looks like we're in a loom.
It does look like we're in a loom. Shout out loom. The thing that they talk about is like, we are using this to extend the time in which we're comfortable with humans remaining in space, and we've now extended it up to 1 year. But I do not feel like it is evident where are the points that you're applying pressure to push that north of 1 year. Like, is the 2-year ISS stay... I hate to break it to you, we're running out of time if you want to do a 2-year ISS stay. So if we were going to run that experiment, or a year and a half, or whatever, we are really close to out of time to start that project. So what are the ways that they're actually pushing that timeline forward?
I have two thoughts about that. So one is that I don't think they're ready for a 2-year mission. I don't think that they feel good enough about like mitigations to health to make that worth it. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I'm forever affected by Scott Kelly's book and his describing his experience coming back after a year. Actually, it wasn't even a year. It was 11 months, right? Like, and he came back and he was in rough shape, man. Like, there was like severe problems that he had to deal with for a while to get better. And it's like, I think about a 2-year mission and that would like wreck somebody. Yeah. And I don't know if like, you know, the ISS, we might be hitting the limit of the ISS in terms of how long of a mission it can support from the physiological perspective, right? That's my non-scientific hunch. So toss that out if it's garbage, human health people. And please.
This reminds me that we have an email thread that we need to follow up on, I think, right? Related to this?
We do.
Okay.
Resurrect that one.
We're going to state that in public so that we are held liable.
Yeah, exactly. The other thought I have is just like, making us live longer in space is not a strong enough objective on its own. It has to be part of a bigger plan. I don't think we have that bigger plan. Like, you can't just be like, we need to extend the ISS so we can do a 2-year mission. It's like, no, we're not. Like, I don't want to spend $8 billion to see if we can last 2 years in space. Yeah. Like, that is just not a good value proposition, right? It's, you know, it's $4 billion a year to support the ISS. So
I think that's also the best argument for like a lunar surface base, is that you can do ISS length expeditions to a lunar surface base and work your way to a 2-year stay, you know, at Shackleton Crater or whatever, rather than maintain a platform.
That would be a better analog for Mars too, because the radiation environment's more similar, right? So you're not in the safe zone. So
we're both, I think, in support of just building a fucking moon base.
Okay, well, let's talk about Artemis.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't have a very coalesced thought on this, but more and more, like, this is kind of related to the Casey Hanmer article that came out, his very angry, rambly blog that is unfortunately very on point. It is like the technical underpinning of Artemis is appearing to me more and more hamstrung than we already thought it was. Like I was cynical about SLS like in 2020, and then I got really cynical about it after the first launch, and now I'm like even more cynical about it. Like my attitude towards it is getting worse, which is like telling because it wasn't very good to begin with. But like I'm super worried that nothing else matters in Artemis because like this rocket is just like we're just stuck with it, and it's costing so much money, and there's no incentive to change it because that's the point of it. The point of it is to keep those people working, right? So I almost think like every time there's a discussion about Artemis strategy, it's like, does this matter? Like, you know, it's not really a money problem at this point.
It is and isn't, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, didn't we do a show a couple of weeks ago that was titled like the wedges are wedging or something? I think I got on
wedges are wedging.
I got on the rant that Eric ended up writing up, which was like the only way out is canceling Gateway and Block 1B SLS. And then he threw the little stunt on the end, which was use Centaur 5 as the upper stage for the SLS. I need to ask him about how that part came about here, and like who he talked to about that being the third bullet point on the plan was make Centaur 5 the upper stage. Gateway is the only way out of the current Artemis logjam. And if it were to happen, if we were to be in a world in which Gateway was now canceled and what Artemis meant was lunar surface, I think that would clarify things in a very helpful way, and it would help organize things in a way that cannot be organized at the moment. And the biggest argument that people make for keeping Gateway is like, you know, I mean, there's the weird argument of like you need a way station, which I think both of us would discount offhandedly. I don't know how you feel about needing a way station. You know, you need somewhere to stretch your legs, or
I don't
Orion
think so.
fine
No.
for you?
Like okay, so quick thoughts on way station. An intermediate piece of infrastructure between 2 points on a journey is only really useful if it's a branching point, right? Like you need a place where like it's like a hub, you know, a transfer hub. Like you think about airplanes, right? Like you connect from in some city to go somewhere else. That hub has like more than one goal of just getting you to the other place, right? So it's transferring a whole bunch of stuff. It's a node in a network, right? So if Gateway was actually doing that, if there was people going from Earth to the moon, people going from Earth to Mars, and people coming from Mars to the moon, and you know, if you had that happening, a way station starts to make more sense. In the current plan, it doesn't. No, that's my that's my first principles take on it.
Yeah, it's a rest stop, not an airport hub. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a rest stop that's like half hour off the highway to the left, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's the annoying one that you're like, it says 1.2 miles, but like I do
want a road Coke, but is it going to be worth an hour? I don't think so.
So the other argument is the whole like geopolitical side of, listen, all the ISS partners are already signed on to the Gateway and they're into it, and you know my rant about this. That was relevant when we were worried about Russia being the one that would come with us and keeping it within that context. Russia has no interest in coming to the Gateway with us. They have no interest in going to the surface with us. Yeah. And I think
same problem as the ISS.
Same problem with the ISS existing, yes. But I think Canada is the only ISS partner that has not already stated a thing that they would do on the lunar surface. Is that true, or do you know if Canada has done any like statements of what they would be interested in for the lunar surface?
Well, we're in a tough spot because we made a pretty large commitment to Canadarm3, and we don't have a big space agency. So like if you want to make a meaningful contribution, if Canada wants to make a meaningful contribution to the lunar surface, they either need to increase funding significantly or cut Canadarm3. And like both of those are not very palatable, right?
But I guess at that point I would be looking at is Canadarm3 is the robotics component. You're going to need some sort of robotics on the lunar surface to do stuff when people aren't necessarily there. Like, could that be repurposed or repositioned? Or...
It could be. I think the more likely route is that they, unless Gateway actually gets canceled, in which case things could be reassessed because then it's not them throwing out the arm. But if Gateway sticks around, like I would imagine Canada contributing smaller, like robotic rovers. So like either from like a construction purpose, like help you build things autonomously, or like scouting exploration from a base, I think would be a place where Canada would step up. Like, we're the smallest partner, right? Like we're way smaller than JAXA or ESA in terms of contributions. So like,
you're also nobody like. So ESA has said that they want to do these large cargo landers, and I think there's even some habitat drawings that they have shown as like, maybe we could do this. JAXA has the badass looking pressurized rover that they're working on. I think everybody would be fine if we were like, oh, we brought a friend Canada. Like they're here hanging out with us. Like if you guys were the friend that like crashed on the couch for a night down on the lunar base, I don't think anyone would be like, well, what the hell did you pay to get here? Nobody would be too worried about that.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not worried about it
we'll see.
as a policy. Yeah. But anyway,
I like your thinking.
Point being,
hopefully the Congress
that geopolitical argument only made sense in that context when Russia was a part of this. But the rest of the partners, we'll figure out what to do with Canada. It's not a big concern. The rest of the partners on a large scale have stated intense interest in doing something on the lunar surface, and specifically, we all know what they are in this for. They all want their people to walk on the moon. Like that's not Canada's not pumped about, Jeremy Hansen's going to fly around the moon. I mean, they're pumped about that, but that's not the whole reason that they're in this thing on a grand scale. It's not like, one day we will have someone at the gateway and we'll see Canadarm doing its thing with the moon in the background. That is not what they're in this for. Everybody wants feet on the moon at some point as part of this program. That is what everybody's there for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. But I think the gateway issue, I think, is separate from the rocket issue, though, right? Because you can cancel gateway and you can redirect all these funds to lunar infrastructure and everyone can be on board. But unless NASA eliminates or severely downplays the role of SLS, you still can't do any of it, right? Because like that's currently the only vehicle that's going to send half of this shit there anyway, right?
Let me convince you that you're thinking about this incorrectly. In my vision and in Eric Berger's vision in this article, canceling gateway cancels SLS 1B, which is a huge amount of funding for EUS, for the new mobile launcher, and detaching like the funding that is freed up from that move. Not saying it all applies immediately to Artemis program, but the negative space that is there makes the rest of the surface missions more likely. And when we are putting everything else in place that is needed for those surface missions, you can fly your way out of SLS Block 1 much easier than you can fly your way out of SLS Block 1B in a gateway. So
fly your way out of it. What do you mean by that?
If I said this all along, if there is a starship that can land on the goddamn moon with however many refueling flights that they need, we are not going to be limited to flying to the moon once a year. That is not a thing that anyone in this country will let happen, for sure.
I think I hope so, because what you said, getting rid of the upgrades, which are like just an anchor around the neck
drag
of this
on the
program.
Whole program.
It gets brutal, right? Let's say you freeze the design right now, and Block 1 or whatever it's called is the only thing that ever flies, and then maybe you have to swap out to a Centaur at some point. But if you freeze that design, like it still depends on Boeing like doing a good job. And I don't know how to say that nicely. It's just not looking good right now. That like the problems they've had in that other report about their quality control issues at Michoud, we're seeing that manifest in Starliner and in the airplanes. Like I'm not happy about them being in charge of this rocket, right? Like we've had one flight, which means we basically have zero data on its reliability. Like we have one thing that had worked, which might have been a good rocket and it might have been a fluke, and we already know that the heat shield's having problems. So like Lockheed is obviously like not taking care of their side of things up there. Boeing and Lockheed, separate contractors working on a completely integrated system with only NASA as like the communicator between them. We've had that discussion 100 times. Not a well managed, like the project management structure of this thing is not very good. Lockheed and Boeing, not the best of friends in most cases. So it's wild. Like it's a really strange thing. And I know it's like how we used to always do things, but in today's age, the setup of SLS is wild. Like it's just it's unbelievable that they chose to do that. Like Orion SLS are sometimes like described as separate systems, but there is a 1-to-1 ratio in SLS and Orion flights. Like Orion cannot launch anything else, and SLS can't launch anything else. So like they're the same system, you know. So it's I don't know. I'm just like, I'm not super confident, and I don't know how many corners you have to cut and like down scoping you have to do before it gets palatable, but I think it's more than what you're describing.
Probably. I think though the issue is the gateway. The if you keep the gateway, how should I even approach this argument? I don't even know. But the architecture of building out the gateway requires SLS 1B and Orion because Orion is the thing that does the navigation from pulling this off the rocket to docking to the gateway.
Gets the cargo there,
It does the Apollo-style turnaround, grab the cargo out of the SLS upper stage, and then tug that to the moon, do all the rendezvous and docking operations that it needs to put the module where it's going to go on the gateway, and then presumably undock and go to where Orion would like to sit on the gateway. And so if you had the gateway still, you would have to start a program to build a tug that is genericized and can take, 5 or 10 tons or whatever of a module from Earth all the way to the gateway. And I don't know what that program would run you, but it would be a lot. And
about EOS costs,
at that point, I'll take the giant rocket.
And let's put Northrop in charge of it, just so we can have the trifecta. On,
totally. Gotta do it. Yeah, and that will only launch on an SLS Block 1.
It
can't possibly be flown on anything else. Anyway, the architecture, it is also a 1-to-1 pairing of gateway flights to Block 1 flights, Block 1B flights. Yeah. And so that's the part that I find, even if you cancel the gateway and none of that funding came to Artemis, I still think that's a win. I think if you had the Artemis budget minus the gateway and Block 1B stuff, and that budget also disappeared, I think we'd still be more successful on a long scale than we would with the gateway, even if the funding with the rest of the shit increased.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Again,
I don't think we disagree on that. I don't think we disagree on that. I think we agree that gateway going away improves the program. I'm on board with that one. It's just whether that's enough to. I don't know. I think it's becoming increasingly likely that China gets there first, and we've talked about this before. I don't actually give a shit if China beats you guys to the moon. I don't think that's the actual issue, but I think what that kind of highlights is that it underscores that they can accomplish things when NASA can't. You know what I mean? It's sort of it's not really the actual objective that matters. It's the fact that they were able to succeed at it.
Doing stuff.
I think right now the NASA situation is just no one's really kind of clear on what they want to do. It's just really, really muddled in terms of objectives. And there's this is how you want it. Sometimes you want 10 objectives that align, so you get a consensus and a coalition to get something done. But I feel all the different objectives are only kind of aligned, and so this thing is barely being held together by the various stakeholders that want to do something with this. And I'm worried about how fragile it is. I just feel it's, I don't know. There's because there's a whole bunch of parts of this program that feel very Hail Mary to me. The suits, very Hail Mary. It's just yeah, we can't solve this. So, hey, companies, can you? And then two of them were yeah, we can. And then one of them was actually, no, we can't. And then the other one's by the way, I have no money. So, that's a very Hail. It's the suits.
Yeah.
Well, that's a critical dependency, right?
Maybe we can't just China.
Yeah, maybe. Sounds like theirs are ready to go, right?
Yeah.
So you have that, and then HLS was kind of that. I think HLS will be okay because you have a pretty rock solid contractor.
HLS is the Hail Mary they threw to the greatest wide receiver in the world. They
exactly
just threw that shit up, and that guy is going to track it down.
Yeah, and no one's going to talk about it because he catches the ball, but no one's going to be that was a desperate, crazy move.
Yeah.
They had
That's
no
Randy
plan.
Moss out there. They're Randy Moss is going to catch this shit.
Thank God SpaceX is a thing that exists, because otherwise this Hail Mary would have been caught by Northrop Grumman or something, and then you would
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really
a cheat code.
Northrop Grumman on this.
But on that topic though, I think that's actually an interesting a thing that I am. There's been a lot of op-eds about like, U.S. versus China stuff lately in the election year that we're in.
Yeah.
I find it interesting to consider exactly in the context that you just said. I think you stated it beautifully. Like, they can do it, we can't, is the comparison there. China's currently speed running the 1960s to 70s space industry globally. And I wonder if the good comparison is like achievements on milestone achievements, versus like, I think our superpower here in the ISS partner world is the larger space industry. The fact that we have a vibrant space industry is the achievement we should be after. And I think strategically for NASA, their charter is specific, but also not very good for the modern era. I don't think it gives them a really good guiding light on what their end goal should be. Should their end goal be a thing with a NASA logo is establishing a lunar base, or is it morphing into like, we just want to raise the tide of the commercial space industry so that we have all these capabilities and that their benefits come out in ways that we didn't expect? Because that's been the magic that NASA has done, right? They set out a certain project to do a certain thing, and we get 6 side benefits we didn't even think about. And you could look at this on commercial spaceflight for cargo and crew that we've seen with SpaceX, and side effect was we got the greatest commercial launch provider the world has ever seen. You could look at it with like the non-NASA parts of the U.S. government are trying to buy a lot of commercial imagery from imaging companies. That has shown its worth over the last couple of years, very specifically in a handful of geopolitical situations where there is a start of that in the position, navigation, and timing side of the industry right now, where there's companies trying to do GPS alternatives because there's been GPS jamming happening. GPS is very expensive. It's a national asset that is like billions of dollars, but only dozens of satellites. So if there is a proliferation of position, navigation, and timing startups, like the overall space industry, I would say that should be the goal of NASA. And in that light, is Artemis architected correctly anyway, is a thing that would concern me there. Like, not that the thing we have to compete then is that like we've been critical of the way Eclipse has run, but that's run in the way that I think it should be if we're looking at like, no, we just want to raise the industry generally so that we have more capabilities to take advantage of. SpaceX is a more valuable national asset than we could ever have directed our way into, And
that's a good way to think about it.
If we develop 10 or 20 of those, is that better than, we did a national program to land on the moon?
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that one. That does raise my spirits a bit. It is a good way to think about it. I think I struggle with that, and this is like
NASA as an incubator. It's a weird thing, but
it's part of their charter,
like
so it's not even that weird. Yeah.
It's not, but they act like it sometimes and they don't others, and I think the conflict is where we get into problems.
Yeah. Well, and also this is sort of just high level commentary on how America runs things. It's very messy, and like for every one thing that gets done, 10 things get killed. That's just that's the capitalist, competitive,
embrace the chaos.
Good stuff. Good stuff flows to the top. Like, and I do not operate well in that environment.
No, you don't. You don't at all. But I'm like, I'll take an apple if it costs me a couple of Lenovo's
make a
or
plan.
whatever.
Yeah, can we just make a plan and then agree together and shake hands and then do the work? Like, that's all I want. But it's just like, no, I gotta kill every competitor and then hope that I get killed last. It's a very weird way to do things, and I guess it works sometimes, most of the time.
Done all right, I would say. I would stand that approach. Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that's a me problem, I guess. It's just coming to terms with that. But no, you're totally right. Is that is like if you do step back and go like, if you were some third unnamed mystery fictitious country, and you were like, do you want the Chinese space program or the American space program? Like, no one's gonna pick the Chinese one. Like, let's be serious. Like, it's just completely neutral. You're not gonna do that. So that's a good perspective to have.
But there's we talked about this last week with Joey, like the drone industry. If you picked like which drone industry do you want? I don't know if we're winning that one, Jake. Which semiconductor fabrication industry would you want? We're not winning that one, Jake. So like,
what's the new one that just opened?
There should be like. Yeah, I think to the extent that we get distracted by whose lunar lander touched down first with people is harmful to what I think the actual valuable part is, which is it's valuable that we have a list of a bunch of companies that I've navigated to their websites and they all happen to look the same. But the fact that we have all those companies that have websites is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully that, I guess if you want to have the long-term look on that, with that perspective, then it's just like what at the end of the Artemis program, whether they beat the Chinese or not, call it it's 2040 now. And you look back on it, it's like, how is the space industry better because of it? Is it because of the lunar landers? Like, is it, SpaceX and Blue have this new like infrastructure and they're doing stuff there? Or is it like partners have grown because of it? Like, have we created a better integrated economy between Japan and Europe and Canada and the United States? Like, is that look better? Like, what is the, I'll ask you, like, what do you think the objective of Artemis in that lens? What should the objective be? What is the measure of success there?
For me, it's the expansion of the development of space. In the way that I think the ISS is like its greatest legacy will be that expansion of the development of space to LEO and having a ton of side benefits that we didn't expect come out of that program, and we didn't expect to get not only the greatest commercial launch companies ever existed, the largest satellite operator with the best global internet service that there's ever been. All of that came out of now. I'm of the bent that like I don't think NASA is to credit for what SpaceX has done. I would never take that approach. I think SpaceX, used the NASA programs that were there to work their way towards their own goals. Yeah. I've always said that is their style and that's why they're successful, and others should emulate that thing in particular, which is, find where you can add value in the direction of your goals. But NASA didn't have to dictate, we would like you to take cargo to the ISS and also develop a viable commercial launch industry and satellite buses that you could sell to the NRO and internet service to Jake in Mexico and all these other things. That just happened because to build your way there, that had to happen. And I want that same idea to expand to the lunar area. So if people are interested in going to the moon, if it's Intuitive Machines or Blue Origin or whoever, whatever the hell they want to do out there, I would like them to have opportunities that they can leverage to get there.
Yeah.
And if we're funding that by way of Antarctica-style research, if that's what does it, cool. If it's national pride because we need to beat China there, that's also fine. But I think the guiding light should be, is this creating momentum in the direction of expanding? I'm like a humanist down to the core of needing to expand through the solar system. That is a drive. I think we talked about this in the religion episode, right? That like I see that as like the human's goal because that's how all animals have operated. So if you can build momentum in that direction, and I think that's transportation first, but then infrastructure second, then I'm there for it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not utopia for you. Star Trek.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. It is a good way to think about it, and I need to think about that better. It's all about that messiness, though, right? Because it's like, if that's the goal, I'm like, I love that goal. So let's plan it. Like, let's write it down. Like, what is our? And then you're just like, no, you just got to do it, and then like some shit will float to the top, and then like, hopefully it's cool. And like it's such a carefree way to like just it's
carefree and it's not even guaranteed. It might not work.
No.
Maybe spacesuits as a commercial thing are not a thing.
This is just throwing a bunch of ingredients into a bucket and like maybe you get a cake,
But I think that's actually that's what gives you longevity. Like, if you're somebody in politics that wants to do the U.S. versus China comparison, I think we need a little bit more insight into how these operations are actually run in China right now. But if the Chinese government at a national level stopped being interested in any particular thing, would any of the momentum of those companies maintain?
Gone.
And if would there might be one though. I don't know. There might be one in particular. Like,
Maybe.
I don't know what these. I haven't looked into the corporate organization of these mega constellations that are cropping up there. One of them also is named Starlink, like G60 Starlink or some shit. That's weird. But maybe some of those. I would be interested in what companies there continue with momentum, because if NASA stopped funding SpaceX entirely, like say Elon did some crazier shit on Twitter, and NASA stopped funding SpaceX, right? They stopped buying missions from SpaceX. They stopped flying to the ISS with SpaceX. SpaceX would still keep doing its thing, and they would find another way to do it, and they always have been that way. Like, NASA was not involved in Falcon 1. They just were trying to figure that shit out. And the Air Force was to some extent, and others were. And NASA happened to be greatly involved in Falcon 9 and Dragon and all that. But if that went away, I don't think the Starship program ends tomorrow.
No, it doesn't. No, they've got their feet under them now, right? So like, it's a job well done for NASA. They can like wipe their hands of that one and move on to the next incubator, right? But yeah,
I guess also the argument of the FCC everyone's having about like FCC subsidies and going to other people, not SpaceX. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, they're doing all right. They're going to be
yeah. Apparently the FCC is killing people. That's the last tweet I heard about. Yeah, just directly murdering.
Fired up
through hurricanes because
they operate HARP now. That's what I
no, you're totally right about that. I guess the summary of my sadness on this one is it's like, I think I just envy China's ability to like make a plan and then do it. Like, it's such a simple thing. They're just like, we're going to do this in 5 years. And then 5 years later, they're like, that's what we did. Like, we don't have any debate over here. So we just say it's the law, and then it's the law, and then it goes forward, And I know that's not what I actually want, but it's like,
you don't want that.
No, I don't want that at all. I'm very much a consensus person, but like, I do sort of envy that ability to be like, it's just so simple, there's no, you don't have to like lay awake and think about like, it's just like, oh, this is the plan. And then it happens.
It's why I bias towards companies that are clearly building momentum and not ones that are working towards like dead ends or uninteresting projects. If you're a company that shows momentum in a particular direction,
companies can do this. That's the thing. Companies can do this really well, right? Like SpaceX is very much that as well. They're like, 8 years ago, he's like, I'm going to build this enormous, hilarious spaceship that is completely ridiculous, and we're going to go to the other planets, and like, here we are. They're doing it, right? Like, they're still, that plan has not changed. It's 8 years later, and that plan has not changed. So like, that's cool to see as well, right? And sometimes it's just really hard to watch NASA be like, well, we're not really sure what this problem with this, so we're going to have a committee that makes a report that suggests having another committee to figure out what the plan is to understand the problem, and then we'll, and you're like,
Polaris program might be a really good example of this, Jake. That like, whatever the hell you would classify the Polaris program as, I saw Jonathan McDowell trying to understand what this should be listed as in his website, and nobody really figured that out. But name an organization that is helping to like infuse momentum into SpaceX development roadmap more than Polaris program at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know that. I think SpaceX is building an HLS variant of Starship, but they would still be working on the same stuff if not for the NASA contract.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't necessarily be working on the things that they are for the Polaris program.
The role of Isaacman in SpaceX is a really interesting concept. Like, sometimes I like sit back and go like, what's going on there? Like, what is that? Like,
straight up Lorenzo de Medici style stuff, man.
Like, is it really just as simple as like, he likes space and so he'll spend his money and go to space? Like, is it really that simple and he's just having fun? Or like, is there, I don't know, it's interesting, man. It's like really, it's really,
and that's because you're uncomfortable with the chaos of like, dude made a lot of money on payment processing and is also interested in investing some of that in the space. Like, I think that's one thing that's weird is that investment, the term investment though, I think is so grouped with like financial return, when in this case it's like straight up he wants to invest so that there is more development in space, and that's kind of rad. The ROI he wants is like more capabilities. So you can't wait.
And that's fascinating. That's like,
you want to know how much he has received of SpaceX, like if there's any percentage owned or something?
Maybe, I don't know. Like, is he getting I don't know, is he like, he's kind of helping invent stuff at SpaceX, and does he have any kind of IP rights to that? Is he getting ownership, or is he just like, no, it's fine, man, you guys take it and run with it. Cool. I just want to go to space, and if you guys get something of that, fucking great. Like, is that all it is? Like, it just seems so strange. Like, I can't think of another example like this,
but I think he's also legitimately fine if he just has a really fucking cool Wikipedia page.
Yeah. which is like awesome. Like if that's all it is, that guy's awesome.
Yeah,
love it. I mean,
it's like James Cameron, like all the stuff that he's done. That's not just straight up making movies. That's in that ilk. And that the thing that I'm obsessed with that I sent you the link, Ocean X, this like Ray Dalio funded, the Ray Dalio philanthropic arm of like ocean research, and they shot a lot of my favorite scenes from Blue Planet 2, and it's just this like epic ship that they have. I haven't seen any other videos involve murdering sperm whales or sharks or dynamiting coral reefs yet. They're doing a good job with it, but haven't we done a show about like the old school like private space research that happened, like private observatories and private investment in this stuff? Did we do a show about that, or is there just writing about it?
Casey Dreyer did a show about that.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Space Policy did specifically about like the old observatories. It was like the late 1800s. It was like every rich guy was buying a telescope. Yeah.
If that's the era we're in because our exploration technology has achieved that moment, then like it's really cool that we're here for that 100 years or whatever.
Yeah, I hope it's 100 years. Yeah.
Some sort of golden era.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would say...
I don't know. Do you feel uplifted by any measure?
Yes. I'll give you 50% marks. I think you brought me up in Artemis, but we stayed low for ISS.
Yeah.
We didn't get anywhere on that. You just agreed with me, and then we were sad together.
I mean, I think low key if we do another show, maybe this is the reason that we should do another show, Jake, of like what would we do for NASA dictator for the term. We might be due for that because part of me wants to know if we just completely bailed on Gateway and ISS both, and not just ISS, commercial LEO, and just went all out on lunar surface. How that would shake out.
Yeah. It's a good good question. I think we're due for that. We're due for the update there. How long ago was it? Was it actually, I always think it was like, was it 5 years? And it's like, I don't know. I don't think it was 5 years. So was it?
I know the title was Sorry I Got Too Itemized.
Got Too Itemized.
Yeah. Some of these titles actually stick in my brain.
So you can
that
Google
was
it.
Episode 38.
38.
Which was in...
It's hard to tell that anymore.
3 years ago.
3 years. Okay. Yeah, I think we're due then. That's about one ministerial meeting away. We can do it. Do it ESA style.
Yeah, it's January 26, 2021. So.
Okay, well that's three and a half years. Yeah. We're due.
It was actually the previous NASA turnover. So I think we're on track. We should do this once a presidential cycle.
Okay. We should do it in January then. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Gives us a little heads up for it. So look at that.
Little lead time. Yeah.
And
I already know
we won't
changes
do
I'd
any
make,
of it until the last week of December.
Till the Wednesday before the show. Man.
Good. All right, buddy.
All right.
I don't necessarily think we have a couple plans in motion, but I don't think we have anything statable for happening next week.
No, nothing
Unless
yet.
You know something
we got a lot of seeds.
We're still working on our schedule here, so
we'll see. We'll see which seed grows.
We'll see
if Juno wants to be a part of that. Hello.
Look at that. Wow.
Hello, Junebug.
Look at that. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.